The emergency klaxons screamed through the Galactic Council chambers like wounded animals, and High Arbitrator Vek'thara's 3 eyes widened in something she hadn't felt in 2 centuries, genuine terror. "Repeat that," she demanded, her voice cracking through the translation matrix. Slowly. Junior Scanner Plixton gulped, his mandibles clicking nervously. The readings are confirmed. 1 vessel. Single. Solo. Alone. Just 1 ship approaching Sector 7. And you activated a code extinction alarm because of ONE ship. Council member Drathnor bellowed from his floating platform. "Have you lost your sensory organs?" Plixton's skin flashed from blue to sickly yellow. "Sir, you don't understand. The mass readings are impossible. This thing is 50 kilometers long." The chamber fell silent. 50 kilometers. That wasn't a ship. That was a mobile planet. Vek'thara felt her secondary stomach clench. Origin? Sol system. The humans. Oh no. Oh sweet merciful void, no. The humans. Those absolute lunatics who'd showed up to their first diplomatic meeting in what they cheerfully called a peaceful transport that had enough firepower to crack a moon. The same species that considered nuclear weapons conventional warfare and thought space combat should happen at ranges where you could actually see your enemy. The ones who'd somehow survived their own homeworld, a death trap they affectionately nicknamed Earth, which apparently tried to kill them daily through weather alone. And now they'd built this. "Put it on screen," Vek'thara ordered, her voice barely steady. The main display flickered to life, and the collective gasp from 300 species echoed through the chamber like a choir of the damned. It was beautiful in the way supernovas are beautiful, terrifying, incomprehensible, and absolutely guaranteed to ruin your day. The ship, if you could even call it that, looked like someone had taken a mountain range, strapped engines to it, and decided geometry was optional. Angular surfaces jutted out at angles that made Vek'thara's mathematical centers hurt. Weapon ports dotted its surface like stars in the sky, thousands upon thousands of them. "How many beings does it take to crew that monstrosity?" someone whispered. Plixton checked his scanner, then checked it again. "According to our estimates, 40,000 minimum." 40,000? Drathnor's voice hit a pitch usually reserved for mating calls. "Who builds a ship that needs a small city's population to operate?" "Humans, apparently," muttered Vek'thara. "Because of course they do." The ship continued its approach, moving with the kind of terrible grace that spoke of immense power barely contained. Its engines alone could probably power a dozen colony worlds. The energy signature was so massive that their sensors kept insisting it was a natural phenomenon, because surely nothing built by living beings could output that much raw force. "Hail them," Vek'thara ordered. "Before they think we're being rude." Because if there was one thing she'd learned about humans, it was that they valued politeness right up until they didn't, and you really, really didn't want to be around when they stopped being polite. The communication channel crackled open, and a human face appeared on screen. Female, dark hair pulled back in what they called a regulation bun, and wearing an expression of carefully controlled boredom that somehow made Vek'thara even more nervous. "This is Captain Elena Vargas of the ETNS Prometheus. We're here for the scheduled trade summit. Permission to approach the station? Scheduled. Trade. Summit." They'd sent this to a trade summit. "Captain Vargas," Vek'thara managed, proud that her voice only trembled slightly. "Your vessel is quite substantial. Is this standard for human diplomatic missions?" Captain Vargas had the audacity to look confused. "The Prometheus? She's just a light Titan class. We didn't want to seem presumptuous by sending anything bigger." Bigger. They had bigger. Drathnor made a sound like a deflating balloon. Somewhere in the back rows, a Kixtari representative fainted, their translator faithfully announcing unconscious in 17 languages. "I see," Vek'thara said, because what else could she say? "And how many of these light Titan-class ships does humanity possess?" "Oh, 12 in active service, with another 6 in construction. Though between you and me," Captain Vargas leaned closer, her voice dropping conspiratorially, "the heavy Titans are way more impressive. The Prometheus is really just a pocket battleship." A pocket battleship. This 50-kilometer nightmare fortress was their idea of small. Vek'thara looked at Plixton. Plixton looked at Drathnor. Drathnor looked at the ceiling as if praying to gods he didn't believe in. Permission granted, Vek'thara said weakly. Docking bay, 17 through 42. 17 through 42? Captain Vargas raised an eyebrow. You're going to need at least 70 bays. The Prometheus doesn't exactly fit in standard parking. Of course it didn't. 3 hours later, the Prometheus sat docked to the station like a whale attached to a minnow, and Captain Elena Vargas strode into the council chambers with the kind of confidence that came from commanding a ship that could glass continents before breakfast. Behind her walked Commander James Park, a man whose smile was somehow more terrifying than any weapon, and Lieutenant Aisha Okonkwo, who carried a datapad like it contained the secrets of the universe. Which, given human technology, it probably did. Honored Council, Captain Vargas began, her voice echoing pleasantly through the chamber. Thank you for accommodating us. I know the Prometheus is a bit snug in your docking configuration. A bit snug. The station had to shut down 3 entire commercial sectors to make room. Vek'thara forced herself to smile with all 3 mouths. Not at all, Captain. We're simply curious. Your ship is rather extraordinary. You should see her with the battle screens active, Lieutenant Okonkwo chimed in cheerfully. The energy signature increases by about 40%. Really makes the shields pop. Several council members whimpered audibly. Commander Park stepped forward, his smile never wavering. We've brought samples of Earth goods for trade consideration. Agricultural products, entertainment media, some technological specifications for review. Technological specifications? Drathnor perked up despite himself. The Kralvian Empire was always interested in new technology. Oh sure, Park said. Basic stuff really. Fusion reactor designs, our latest medical nanits, some recreational spacecraft blueprints. Nothing fancy. Plixton nearly dropped his scanner. Their recreational spacecraft probably had better weapons than most military frigates. Vek'thara cleared her throat carefully. Captain Vargas, if I may ask a somewhat delicate question. Why exactly did humanity build ships of such substantial proportions? Captain Vargas blinked. Protection, obviously. Space is dangerous. Protection from what? Vek'thara asked, genuinely baffled. Humanity had only been spacefaring for 80 years. What could they possibly be afraid of? Well, pirates for one, Vargas ticked off on her fingers. Rogue asteroids. Hostile alien species, though you've all been lovely so far, thank you. Cosmic radiation. Gravitational anomalies. Solar flares. The occasional spatial rift. You know, the usual. The usual. She said it like she was listing grocery items. And you need a ship with 40,000 crew members for this? Drathnor asked incredulously. 42,000 actually, Lieutenant Okonkwo corrected. We picked up some extra personnel before departure. Marines mostly. And their equipment. And the mech division. Oh, and the aerospace wings. Mechs. They had mechs. Plural. Vek'thara's headache intensified to migraine levels. Captain, with all respect, most species manage interstellar travel with crews of perhaps 50 beings. 100 for large vessels. What do 42,000 humans do on one ship? Captain Vargas looked genuinely thoughtful. Well, there's the tactical division, engineering, medical, sciences, agricultural sections, manufacturing, the educational facilities, recreational staff, civilian support personnel, the military contingent, navigational teams, communications, intelligence, security, diplomatic corps. She kept going. And going. And going. Commander Park jumped in helpfully. The Prometheus is designed for extended deep space operations. Minimum 5-year missions without resupply. We've got hydroponics, recycling systems that can reclaim 99% of waste, fabrication facilities, even a few parks. Deck 23 has a lake. Your warship has a lake. Vek'thara demanded, her composure finally cracking. Technically it's a multi-purpose vessel, Lieutenant Okonkwo corrected. The lake is for morale and emergency water reserves. Plus the fish are delicious. Fish. They stocked their warships with fish. A nervous Prithkan junior diplomat raised one tentacle shakily. Captain Vargas, what would humanity consider an actual warship? If this is just a light Titan class? Oh no. Vek'thara tried to signal the diplomat to shut up, but it was too late. Captain Vargas's expression brightened. Great question. The heavy Titans are about twice the mass, with full planetary assault capabilities. Then there's the Dreadnought class, though we've only built 2 of those. Experimental. The Leviathan class carries its own fleet of support craft. And there's whispers about a Colossus class in development, but that's classified. The chamber had gone so quiet you could hear Plixtun's respiratory system working overtime. How, Vek'thara asked slowly, carefully, does humanity afford to build such vessels? Commander Park laughed. Actually laughed. Earth's economy is weird. We're a species that evolved to be persistence hunters. We just keep going. Our industrial capacity is kind of ridiculous once we get momentum. Plus, Captain Vargas added, we really don't like being caught unprepared. Humans have this saying, better to have it and not need it, than need it and not have it. So you built ships that can fight entire fleets, Drathnor said faintly, just in case? Exactly. All 3 humans beamed like this was perfectly reasonable. Vek'thara slumped in her seat, feeling every one of her 230 years. The humans hadn't meant to be intimidating. They were just being themselves, excessive, overprepared, ridiculously optimistic survivors who approached the universe with the assumption that anything worth doing was worth doing with overwhelming force. And somehow, terrifyingly, it worked for them. Well then, she said weakly. Shall we discuss trade agreements? Captain Vargas smiled warmly. Absolutely. We're particularly interested in your spice varieties. Earth cuisine could really use some variety. Of course. They'd crossed half the galaxy in a mobile fortress city capable of sterilizing planets, crewed by 42,000 people and their pet fish, because they wanted better seasoning. Humans, Vek'thara decided, were going to give the entire galaxy a collective nervous breakdown. And they'd probably do it while being unfailingly polite.